Hello, Arish de Charge, Falcha Go Music at Madden's. Welcome into another podcast here at Madden's Bar, which is at the heartbeat of the traditional and folk music scene here in the city of Belfast. I'm Lynette Fay, host of the podcast. And before I reveal who is in the snug this week, could you do me a favour, please? We would love you to like and comment and subscribe to the podcast, please. And whatever platform you're watching or listening on, it all helps us to keep this podcast going, and also to invite fantastic guests into the snug for a chat here on Music at Madden's. So, who do we have in the snug this week? This week on Music at Madden's, we have a shining light of the local folk scene with us here in the snug. And yeah, he's a shining light locally, but he is much revered and loved well beyond these shores and well beyond the streets of Belfast, which he seems to manage to make his own in most of the songs he writes. And he does it in such a way where he takes us for a wee walk with him, and we feel the way he feels this going through the city. And I think that's one of the most endearing things about his songwriting. The one and only Joshua Burnside, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thanks for that lovely introduction.
It's true though, because you do take us through the streets of Belfast in your songs, and you feel like, I don't know, we're in your mind, but it's not even that we're in your mind, we're in your soul and feeling whatever it is you're feeling in those moments as you meander through the streets, and you bring them alive in a completely different way, in a really real way, not in that romantic way that maybe Van Morrison did. Yours is more kind of, there's a rawness to it, which I love.
Sure, great, thanks. Well, I guess like Van was a sort of inspiration in that way, actually, because like it was, growing up listening to music, you never heard place names of where you're from being mentioned, and so we're hearing him singing about Hindford Street, and where I live now, actually, and on Cypress Avenue and all these places that are around me. It adds so much meaning to, like, it gives so much to the people of Belfast when they hear their place names mentioned, and like it means so much more to people. I think the music, it resonates more with them if they can relate to it, in that way.
What is it in us, do you think, that we're so drawn to things that are so relatable? And I think that's one of the big selling points of your music, that people really connect to it in a very, very deep way, because you're right. We're straight in already, aren't we? I didn't even say how you doing. Hi, how's it going? Straight in on the big chats.
Let's go. Life, death, United Ireland. What are we doing?
Sectarianism, grief, all of it, Joshua. All the stuff you write about. Let's go. But it is like Teeth of Time was up for the inaugural Folk Album of the Year award there just a number of weeks ago, when we were both over at the award ceremony in Rochdale, gorgeous place in England, just outside Manchester. And I heard a lot of people in those few days we were over in Manchester talking about your album in terms of the way that you perfectly described their lives or how they were feeling. And it was just the openness and vulnerability of the emotion that you displayed in the songs and the songwriting that connected in that way.
Yeah, like that's nice.
But is it something you think about whenever you are songwriting?
No, not really. I do think, like, if I find something to sing about that seems novel to me, like for that record in particular, I was like, I don't know a lot of songs about becoming a dad, and that's what I'm going through, and a lot of songs about these different things that I was singing about. Not just about that, but all the other subjects, all the other sort of, if I find anything interesting to sing about, then I'll go for it, because it's like a novelty, and it's exciting to me to find a little niche in the world of song, because like the amount of songs written about everything and anything, if you can find a little thing that's slightly different perspective, or just something that someone hasn't sung about a lot, then it's exciting to me, and I think that's what resonates with people, I guess, is because a lot of, like, I think people resonate when you're singing about kind of the mundane stuff, like in up and down, like mentioning the dishes and waiting for the bus, and then like all the day-to-day drudgery That like if you get them with that stuff, and then you can like, you know, in the next sentence like say something like heavy or you know, with a lot of meaning or poignancy, then that's like it's a little trick, isn't it? You know.
A little trick. It's like a thunderbolt that just gets you right here. It's like he brought me in, he goaded me in, and then he just killed me. It's like, oh my gosh. No, with that ability, you land messages so clearly and so effectively, I have to say, in your songwriting. And then going from the personal then, where you see that wee niche becoming a dad, your experience of having a baby and then having a toddler. Then you can write in ways about the collective also that isn't being done in a very honest way, I don't think. And there's such an honesty with the way you write, like particularly about life here, particularly about history and about politics here. Like the Marching Ladies. My goodness, like where did that song come out of?
Well, I was given a book called Songs of Belfast, which is folk songs, you know, that were edited by, well, put together by Morris Layden, a song collector, and one of the songs was basically the first couple of verses of Marching Around the Ladies, my song. So I just loved those words, and I loved the poetry of it, but the simplicity of it, almost like childlike simplicity of it, because would have been a song that kids would have sang in the
playgrounds,
and in the playgrounds and on the streets, and they would have had a dance that went along with it.
Yeah.
And so many of these songs are kind of lost. You know, obviously there's still kids still do the head, shoulders, knees, and toes, and you know all there are still songs with moves.
Yeah.
But there were so many more that are sort of almost forgotten, and that would have been one. And there's something about the ambiguity of the words that I felt like I could do a lot with that, like because of that ambiguity, and so I kind of made it the next few verses more personal to my life, and I mentioned places that I love, like Glasgow and Paris and of course Belfast, and made it a sort of a little story about a woman chasing after a fella and chasing him home and all that stuff, and a bit of a rogue, I guess, and maybe there was just some subconscious guilt about me being away on tour all the time or something creeping in there. I don't know, but and then the line that I kind of gave the soul of the song, made the song completely different and completely political. I wrote. I was in Dan, who plays guitar with me. I was in his mum's house, waiting around, and had a guitar, and I just thought, oh, it'd be really. I just had that rhyme, the marching up the Shankill, marching up the falls. Doesn't matter where you're from, the Tories fuck us all. Can you swear in this podcast?
You can swear in this podcast if you like. Yes, Joshua, you're all right. I know you're used to that one being bleeped out, aren't you? Well used to it at this point.
You normally interview me in like more, yeah.
In fact, to really interrupt you, I think the first time you sang that live, you sang it on one of the shows I was doing on radio, and I was like, okay, not that line. Oh, no. But yeah, that's the line that audiences are screaming back at you.
Yeah, I was just a sort of a joke. I just thought it was a funny thing. I loved the rhyme of it, but then I was like, actually, wait, this gives the whole song its meaning and purpose. It's like, because it was a bit just floating about there, and then now it actually has like a sort of purpose, and I'd sneak in this like not huge, but strong political sort of position that, you know, it sort of in the midst of this, sort of hiding it away. It's like a little Easter egg sort of thing that just comes out of nowhere and catches you off guard. You know, it's a nice wee melody. It's just simple melody, simple words, and then before you know it, you're like, there you go. Here's some politics.
Yeah.
So I've been interested in playing it, the way people's reactions, and I guess the idea is just that, you know, there's more. We have more in common with each other on both sides of the divide in the north than we do with Eton educated, you know, ludicrous, hard right nut jobs that were at the time when I wrote the song in power, you know, likes of Boris Johnson and Rees Mogg and all those absolute numpties, and yeah, I want. I guess that's the message.
And that message, though, of identity, that comes into play a lot in your work as well. And even your identity as a folk musician, your journey to folk music, the discovery of traditional music. How did you find it? Because, and I always hate this part because it always seems to me to be really vulgar. Let's do this, strip it back. So you're from East Belfast. East Belfast, traditionally a Protestant stroke unionist, loyalist part of the city, and would not usually be familiar with traditional music in any way, or it wouldn't have been part of your upbringing. But yet, this is where you thrive. How have you found it?
Well, I actually grew up in Cumber originally.
Spuds.
As a child, Cumber Spud. I'm a Cumber Spud. Yeah. So, but same difference really. Like there wasn't any sort of trad music growing up. Really.
Would you have been familiar with wasn't there a wee session in the Poacher's Pocket?
That's right. Yeah.
In the front bar.
So that would have been the first.
Binghams would have been in there.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So that would have been the first sort of time I'd been exposed to it, and I was going in with my guitar, like, I might have been 15 or 16, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, and I really enjoyed it. But
what brought you in there at 15?
I don't know. I just something about it, the sort of timelessness. It felt like those guys had been in that pub for 1,000 years playing the same tunes. And something mystical about that just resonated with me. I thought this was something ancient and pure and not corrupted by anything. And, that's kind of what it felt like to me at that age. But I didn't really see it as music for me still. I thought this was like, oh, this is fun to jam along, but it's not really for me kind of thing. And it wasn't until I went to uni in Queens that it was funny. Growing up, I went to Regent House, and there might have been like one or two Catholics in my whole year, if even. So it's like you just weren't exposed to, a lot of things, and it's a shame. And but when I did music at Queen's, it was kind of the tables were reversed. I was like the token prod. I was like the only prod in my year or my music my class. There might have been a few of us, and they were all like, most of them, as well as being like classically trained, all played a bit of trad. They were all like really good, and they were like, oh, do you ever go to the fla? And I was like, what? I'd never even heard of that word.
What are you talking about?
I was like, what the hell's a fla? And they were just like, they were just so bemused. They just thought it was hilarious how little I knew about all that stuff. And then when I saw them playing in pubs and stuff, and started going to sessions in pubs in Belfast, I was like, oh, this is like young people are doing this, and it's really cool. And it's sort of, and like I was in bands and stuff when I was a teenager, and I loved, like in a rock band situation with your mates when I was a teenager, like you just get together. You'd be in a circle, drummer and guitarist and the bass, whatever, and you'd be playing for each other for no other reason than for the crack. And that's kind of what it reminded me of. It was like, oh, this is just a jam session, like, but in a pub.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no like, it's not like, there's no separation between the audience and the performer. It's not like you're on the stage and I'm the big I am and I'm the performer and you're the audience. It's in the pub, it's in a circle. It's very communal and community driven and socialist in a way, and anti, hierarchical. Is that a word? Hierarchical.
Maybe.
Yeah. And, to me, when I was in my early 20s, I just found that really exciting. And so I started playing the banjo and now I play a bit of fiddle mostly.
Why the banjo?
I just always loved the sound of it, and it came as I was always been a guitarist for years. So that just seemed like the handiest thing, and I loved the Dubliners and loved the way the sound of it and those records, and just thought, yeah, banjo is cool.
Banjo is cool, very cool, and then the fiddle as well. So now, like fast forward, how long ago was that?
that'd be like 15 years ago, whatever.
So now you're comfortable just sitting into a session, no bother, banjo or fiddle, possibly fiddle more these days, would it
Fiddle,
be?
yeah, fiddle more these days. I only started learning fiddling during like the pandemic because I just had a lot more time in my hands without the gig. We all did.
Didn't we all? Exactly.
So some people got into sourdough baking and whatever else. Emily was making her own pasta. And I was learning the fiddle, much to her dismay.
I was going to say,
yeah,
head up in the house and you're shrieking at a fiddle and she's making sourdough.
She really is. She's put up with a lot over the years, but that was probably the hardest thing to put up with. You know, in our wee 2 up 2 down on, like, there's no way to escape the sound of a screechy, scratchy fiddle. Like for like 2, 3, even now when I'm playing, she's like, please.
Yeah, way to test your relationship,
yeah,
eh?
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I'm okay now. And she's like, it still sounds crap to me.
Sound foundations right there. Wasn't there a time during lockdown, during the pandemic, you wrote and recorded an album during that time as well?
Yeah, well, I released Into the Depths of Hell in 2020.
Yeah.
So that had all been recorded and everything. It just, so it was a bit rubbish.
Maybe was it, because I'm just going from memory here. I do remember, maybe, am I remembering correctly, that you wrote music under the stairs?
Yes, I recorded an EP under the stairs. Yeah, in the house. You got that right. Well done.
Got that right.
Yeah, I made a little vocal booth in our cupboard under the stairs and recorded an EP of like traditional songs, like Come a Little Sun and Inga's Motorway and Eileen Aroon and all that stuff. By that stage, I'd already been doing the folk club and the American bar for years, and you know, so exposed to a lot of traditional songs and singing.
And when you discovered the tradition, you know, you've been writing your own stuff, but discovering the traditional songs then, what was that like for you? You know, you talked about the banjo, you talked about the fiddle and sitting in at the session. As a songwriter, I'm sure those songs must have just opened up even yet another world for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's a completely different sort of skill. I'm always in awe of someone like, it's not just about like the singing or the lyrics, the words. It's about finding a song that no one's sung for a while and making it your own. And some people are really amazing at that. And it's actually really difficult to
find the gems.
Find the gems that no one's sung for a while and make it fresh again and tidy it up and make it your own sort of. And so I'm always like, yeah, inspired by people who are good at that, and also, you know, just. And recording them and making them new again, you know, like John Francis Flynn's and Lankum and all those guys and E Vagabonds, they're all brilliant at doing that. You know, taking something that hasn't been sang in a while and just completely refreshing it and making it weird or cool in some way, production wise.
I also think, you know, the beauty of finding songs like that is that they might be centuries old, sometimes even older, and yet the message still resonates and can still be delivered in a way which makes it relevant today.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty in a lot of those songs, when we hear the words in a completely different way for ourselves, where it connects to our own lives. I think that feels really special when you feel that hand of history on a piece of work like that. Yeah,
absolutely. It's actually, you know, it sends shivers down your spine sometimes, and you think, when you're singing a song that old that someone wrote and might have just been passed down person to person, the history involved in that song and that melody and those words, and the first person to come up with them, put them together and sing them, you're connecting with that person in a way.
Yeah.
Like, in a really sort of strange way, you're like channeling them and keeping their sort of spirit alive in a, not to get too sort of ethereal about it, or
but it was interesting when you mentioned there about the book by Maurice Layden about the street songs, and then you adding your own twist to Marching Round the Ladies. Was there ever a part of you that wanted to be adding to the canon? You know, was that part of your motivation when you're songwriting?
No, not really. Like, my motivation when I'm songwriting is never is always trying to be in the most playful state possible, you know, and there's no end goal. There's no like fixed thing of like, I want to, like, that's just, I find any sort of, if you got any lingering motives, it's not helpful for the creative process in any way. It should be just pure play, and that's the way. That's how you get songs finished. And as soon as you start thinking like in that way, like who's the song for and all that stuff, that's when I find that you get stuck on different. You get stuck.
Yeah, and sometimes when you're trying too hard, you lose the magic.
Yeah, exactly.
So you see that sense of you've spoken there about how much you get out of sitting in the session and how much you got out of, you know, going to college, going to Queen's there and learning about traditional music and that this existed and you'd never heard about a fla before. I often wonder, if you hadn't been exposed to that when you were younger, did you ever feel cheated on, that you kind of missed out and that wasn't fair?
Yeah, I feel like that more with the language than the music, but at the same time, like a lot of I know a lot of trad players who excellent players, but are maybe a little jaded with it as well. Like, you know, they're playing since they were kids.
Yeah.
Because their mom and dad play, and like, I'm so envious of their like innate ability, but at the same time, when I got into it, you know, sort of in my early 20s, it was like this was a complete new genre to me, almost, in a way that like is still so exciting to me, like that. I get such a kick out of being in it. You know,
You're that annoying kid when you were coming in. There was just so much. You were so excited
no.
about everything.
I'm like that at the session. Like, I'm like, oh, can we play Kid on the Mountain 16 times? That's so great. And they're all like, no, for God's sakes, please, not this fella. Like,
and then whenever you did go to a fla for the first time, I think, didn't you go up to the Ulster fla in Dromore? That was the first time. I think
it's great.
It rained out that weekend as well. Like, it was so wet, ridiculously wet, no sunshine, nothing. No. But what did you make of it then whenever you went to the fla?
The crack was mighty. I absolutely loved it. And I saw some amazing people play. Pierce Lorcan.
That's right.
Was doing the BBC thing before or after me. And my jaw hit the floor when I heard him singing. I can't remember the woman he was playing.
He and Blaine McCanna, the two of them together, his teacher.
And they were fantastic. And I was just like, you know, and he was so cool as well. I was chatting to him like afterwards, and I like, oh, I really, really like that. And he was like, yeah. Like, yeah, whatever. Kind of like, I was an immediate fanboy. Like, I just thought his voice is brilliant. He's such a brilliant, like, voice. Just one of those singers. It's so natural, you know.
I think that's what part of the beauty of it is, that you think you know everybody, and you think you're aware of all the talent that there is, and then somebody else drops and you discover something else, and you discover somebody else, and it's like the gift that just keeps giving.
Yeah.
And there's such beauty to that. But coming at it, you know, from your perspective of being the wee boy at 15 going into the poacher's pocket to that session where it was older people playing, maybe they're once a week, that was their get together, to seeing this like vibrant life and all the rest of it. You wrote then, or you decided you wanted to discover and research a wee bit more about Protestants and traditional music, so it made its way into your academic research.
That's right. I did a module when I was at Queen's about Irish traditional music that Martin Darling took, and it was we had to write our we learned about the history of the music, and it was sort of fascinating to hear actually that as far as folk music around the world goes, that it's not actually as old as many others. You know, it doesn't, and it's constantly evolving and constantly changing, and even the idea of playing in a pub is quite a new sort of invention, add-on to this sort of tradition. I found that all really interesting, and because and as well, just learning about sort of how I could fit into that. Like we had to do also a dissertation at the end, and I did mine on Protestants playing Irish traditional music and the sort of history of that. And there was a great book called Tuned Out, which is sort of about Protestants playing traditional music and the effect of the Troubles in the 70s and 80s and all that. The effect of that on, you know, Protestant people playing music. And I don't even think Protestant people did play music, but they of course they did, and it wasn't even thought of as traditional music. It was just thought of as country music, and you know, there would have been people who played it, and then would have been more in people's houses and things. And like my family, her granny played, you know, down in Grey Abbey, and like her dad played, and he would have been playing, you know, traditional tunes one night and then going to the Orange Hall, or even playing traditional music in the Orange
Hall, yeah.
And you know, and then the next day marching with the bands and all that, and it wouldn't have been seen as an unusual thing, you know. I found that was completely mind blowing to me. You know, I'd been fed this sort of just this lie, basically, that this music belongs to some people and doesn't belong to other people, and I just think that's now, and I was just like, that was just mind blowing and really exciting for me. I was like, oh, I can play this. I felt like, oh, you're allowed to do this now, which I shouldn't have had, you know, had those misconceptions in the first place, but suddenly I felt like, oh, this music belongs to me and I can make it my own and do my own thing with it, and that was exciting.
Well, my God, are you doing your own thing with it? And that was interesting as well, you know, doing that bit of study, you know, Protestants in the traditional music, learning that people like you have been playing this all along, and also the realization that it's changing and it's ever changing, it's ever developing in ways that you hadn't imagined, because you thought the clues in the name, sometimes traditional meant that there are hard and fast rules here. But guess what? There weren't and there aren't.
Yeah.
Did you feel then, did that give you more agency to play with this, to be more creative, to use the space a bit more, to be you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've never like released like a trad record, really. I just sort of take bits of it and sort of weave it into my songwriting and into my sort of the sounds and textures that I sort of use. But I would fancy doing a sort of traditional record that is more straightforward. I do love, it's like a lot of trad records that are just a load of tunes played nicely, you know, stripped back, and that's.
Any favourites you want to tell us about?
I love the Caoimhín Rahala and Mick O'Brien records, you know, like Katie Lie Over, and like that record from start to finish is just pure bliss to me, like, and just so simple, and but not, it makes it sound so simple, and they make it sound almost easy, but it's just so tasteful and lovely, and it's like one of those classic records. But so it would be class to just do a straight up just a load of tunes, and I write a lot of tunes as well, so I would quite like to do a lot of tunes that I've written over the last few years.
Deadly. And how has the Duncairn Collective played into all of this kind of expression, this dabble in this, you know, working out where you fit? I know that you've been involved in that for a long time, I think since its inception. And anyone who's not familiar with it, the Duncairn is an amazing arts and community space on the Antrim Road in Belfast. It's an old Presbyterian church which has been reopened 15 years ago and has become a hub of the arts community, not just in North Belfast, but for people from right across the city. You're the perfect example of that, Joshua. How did you find the Duncairn in the first place?
My old manager, Lyndon Stevens, I think it was him that met Ray, and they were chatting about doing a gig, and I remember vividly the meeting with Lyndon. I was very impressed with Ray, and just I knew they would get. It makes so much sense to me looking back. They're just
kindred spirits
in a way, you know, absolute. Kind of the two people, like Lyndon always followed his own path and did his own thing, and was a proper, you know, bit of a radical, you know, in many ways, and so he was very impressed with Ray's crack, and I remember him saying, "You got to meet this guy, Greg Giffen, he's great. You're gonna love him. You're gonna love him. You're gonna play in the Duncairn, and you're gonna meet him and chat to him, and he was right. And of course, and I'm still working with Duncairn, working with Ray, because he's a great guy, and just I know he's a legend. Yeah, and the Duncairn is just, it's amazing. The Duncairn collective has just been a fantastic thing to do, and the people I've met, the musicians, and the friendships that I've made from all around the island of Ireland, just through the Duncairn is amazing. Actually, we're going back down. We've been doing a thing with Levis down in Bally Hobbs. We've been up and down every summer around the 12th actually. Which I'm sad to miss, but
Up and down. See what we did there? Joshua, the All Ireland Fla is coming to Belfast in August.
Yeah.
So you've spoken there about not being to Fla until you went to Ulster Fla and all the rest of it, not having been to Flas whenever you were younger. What does it feel like to you now that the biggest one is coming to your hometown?
Oh, it's really exciting. I'm absolutely buzzing, and I've got a lot on during it. I'm doing a few bits and pieces with the Duncairn, actually bringing the Fla Fringe to East Belfast. Put on a few gigs over on my side of town, which should be good crack.
How important is it that there's that outreach there? You know, that you know, yes, we know. I think it's public knowledge now that most of the main events will be happening in the city centre, as you'd expect, I suppose. The Waterfront, the University, City Hall, and that. But the rest of the city is going to be included as well, because you know, like you, growing up, you weren't exposed to this type of music, you weren't exposed to this culture or community, and you thought, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
How important is it to push it out there and give people the opportunity to taste it on their terms and make their own mind up about it and see whether they like it or not?
Exactly. I think you just need to be, when you're exposed to it and you see people playing it and they're you know, playing trad and they haven't got three eyes, and you know what I mean? Like, people just like, well, if you see it about the place, and it becomes less of a threat, you know, less of a that's their thing or that's their music, and you know, it normalizes it, and you know, and you hope it inspires some people to go, actually, I'd like to learn a bit of banjo or something, or I'd like to pick a flute up and play a few jigs and reels. Like, that sounds great, and no matter what sort of background you're from. So I think it's important for the Fla coming to Belfast. Like, it's a monumental thing, and it needs to be seen to be for everyone. You know what I mean? And to be not just seen but felt, that it's not here for one side, and that everyone can be involved in the crack. And I think if there wasn't stuff going on in East Belfast, I think that'd be a real shame. I think that would be like a real missed opportunity to sort of show the whole city that it's, you know, this music is for everyone, and you know.
And hopefully the beauty of it is too that it's not a one-off. So whatever happens this year, and if you do go to something, you know, at the end of your street next year, then when you realise it's coming back, be more, you know, intrigued about it, or, you know, wanting to get involved, or I don't know, maybe in the meantime have gone to classes and taken up an instrument. Like, imagine if that was the outcome. Wouldn't that be unreal?
I'd hope so. I'd hope that is the outcome. I wouldn't be surprised if it was either. You know, how people find their way into making music and playing music, or even just listening to a certain genre of music. Yeah. You know, it could be from any sort of thing, but
you'll have parents signing you up to teach the wee ones the banjo and the fiddle.
I know. Well,
I'm telling you, it's happening.
I've done a banjo class not that long ago in the Glengormley's, you know, the music school up there, the trad school. Jeez, I was a terrible teacher. The class, it was an hour-long class, and I could not believe time slowed. I got a new appreciation for teachers. Time stood still for me. I thought I'd been there for an hour teaching them banjo, teaching them like the rolling wave, and there was all different levels in the room, and there was a wee boy who was just like yapping away at me, and I was like, and he was being a bit of a show off, and I was just getting really stressed out trying to. And it'd been 20 minutes, and I was like, right, that's it, you're all good to go. And then someone was like, it's only been 20 minutes, we've got 40 minutes left. And I was like, what? I taught you everything.
Right, will nobody be sending you up for master classes anytime soon then? No.
I'm not. I'm not. Yeah, I'm a natural teacher. I'm not. I've got no respect for teachers. That's all I have to say about that. It's hard work. That is working for a living. Not what I'm doing.
Ain't that the truth? The space to fail, is that important to you in the creative process?
Yeah, and like not just to fail, but like you can have fun with it and to push each other and to pull and give and take, and that learning how to work with other musicians in a band setup like that there, and it's very relaxed and very informal. But you've got like a weekend to come up with a bunch of songs, and you're trying to accommodate everyone, so everyone's getting a bit to play in the song, and it just it attracts the nicest people and the loveliest sort of creative minds around, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
So it's different energy then whenever it comes to you going to work on one of your own collections of music then, because the last couple of years have been particularly busy. You've had two. The latest album's just out. It's Not Going to Be Okay. And just before that, then you had Teeth of Time, which was massively critically acclaimed. Everywhere you went, people were talking about it, raving about it. And as I mentioned, nominated for numerous awards as well. When you set about then writing an album of songs, how do you do it? What do you come with a purpose? Do you come with an idea? Is there a concept? Because I'm just thinking Into the Depths of Hell. The titles are brilliant as well, by the way. It's like you're walking into a horror story, but you're not. It's just all that kind of truth about feelings, like, and you don't shy away from big conversations and big subjects and big life subjects that a lot of people are experiencing but maybe don't want to talk about and maybe don't want to process publicly, but you go there.
Sure.
So tell me about bringing that vulnerability and that sense of the personal as well as the collective to your songwriting.
Yeah, I find that even though it's such a public way to express your feelings, it feels private to me in a way. I find it very unusual. I would find it unusual to talk about losing someone on Instagram or Facebook and being like, I've lost my, and put my emotions out on social media. But I'd feel totally comfortable doing it through music. And I don't know, that seems, those two things seem at odds with each other, but I guess you have to be vulnerable for people to connect. I think that's the sort of music that I connect to anyway, when a person's been very open and very honest with their feelings. That's what resonates with me. That's what connects to me. And
but being able to bring that vulnerability into your work is not something a lot of people can do, and it's not something that a lot of people are comfortable doing either. Is there a discomfort there while you're doing it that is helpful for you to process?
It feels quite comfy to me just to be like, this is how I feel. And it's never. I've never felt like I've always felt when I'm writing a song, it just doesn't have to be this doesn't have to leave this room when I'm writing it. You know what I mean? I could record this and bin it and bury it, and I have done with many songs that just didn't work out in the end, or I couldn't get it to make it work. So there's no pressure. It's when I actually come to release the music. As I said, this is going back to what I was saying about the sort of creative process, is like you can't be thinking about those things or how people are going to perceive you, or you have to be vulnerable with yourself in life. You have to be honest with how you feel to yourself. You know what I mean? Otherwise, that's where people get into bother, is when they're not connecting with their own feelings and not realizing, oh, I feel crap, and I have done for a long time, or I'm stressing out about this thing but I'm avoiding it, or that's where real mental health issues come from. So you sort of take that with into the creative process as well. You have to feel everything and let it all out and not worry about if you're being vulnerable, because it's only you in that moment. When you're, I guess it's different when you're in a band or you're in a, you're co-writing with someone else. Like, I've always found that really hard. I've never been good at writing songs with people.
Because there's an accommodation there, is it? Or
that vulnerability, not only in like, this is how I feel about this big thing. Like, I would be much easier to sing about my pain and suffering and whatever else, but actually talking about it is harder. I'm classic sort of male, I suppose, in that way. And you know what I mean? It's hard to talk, but I get it out in the lyrics, so that's kind of my outlet, I suppose.
And maybe that's why the songs are connecting with so many people, like particularly fellas as well, who maybe are the same and they can't find the words, don't want to have the conversation, but see that song nails it. That's how I'm feeling. Like, there's a great quote I read in an interview you'd done about, you were saying, like, as we get older, we realise that the really scary things in life are not external to us, they come from within. And I think like that jumped off the page at me, thinking, yeah, big time. And there's the vulnerability, there's the conversations, there's the big conversations that you're not afraid to have through your music. And like the Teeth of Time, like, I laughed the week of the folk album of the year. Your new album was coming out, and I think you went on record saying, yeah, it's better than Teeth of Time. It's definitely Teeth of Time. Teeth of Time's not great, but this was even better. And you know what? You weren't joking. Because if Teeth of Time had so many classic songs on it, so many songs that really jumped out at you. But then you've got like You and Me, from the first couple of lines of that song. Again, it grasps all of us because we can all find something in it. It's just, I don't know, even incredible, knack. But you went to the personal then and the really intimate in this album, and talking about grief. Again, that's something that we think we do well with the wake and the whole process that we'll go through. But then talking about losing someone and how it affects us individually, maybe we're not so good at.
Yeah.
And you've delved into that a bit in this album. First of all, you were dealing with the death of a friend.
Yeah.
Dean. I'd love you to tell me about him.
Yeah, I'll happily tell you about him. Yeah, it's even strange. It's very strange to me to talk about him as if he's gone still. He doesn't seem that way to me. But he was just like a funniest person I've ever met, honestly. And yeah, one of my best mates from when we were about 15, and stayed like, just, yeah, best buds up until he died there about a year and a half ago. And he's just it's almost impossible to describe him, because like, I know it sounds like a cliche being like he was one of a kind, blah blah blah. That's what people say when someone dies, but this guy really was completely different to anyone I've ever met, and always had been from school. Real, like, a bit of a rebel and a bit of just a complete mucker, like, and just, but like really just so quick-witted, so funny, so like warm, and like everybody liked him, everybody loved him, everybody wanted to be his mate. So that when we became mates in school, I was just like so
You'd hit the jackpot.
Proud to be his friend, and always was. I always felt like so lucky to be his mate. And yeah, so it was tough. It is tough. My life is a little grayer, since we lost him, to be honest.
Feels though that he's still alive in those songs.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I say in the sleeve notes of the album is that it's not a eulogy. Like, I couldn't write a song that describes him. It's not. They're not really love songs. They're songs about me, essentially dealing with my grief, and they're, that was the way I was sort of dealing with my emotions, and so that, I mean, his character does come through in a few songs, and I do sort of talk about times we've had together, but yeah.
Has writing the album and writing those songs helped you in any way? Like, it's only a year and a half. That's not a long time at all in terms of grief, in terms of losing someone so dear to you.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever get over losing people? Probably not. I haven't found that to be the case.
No, I don't think you do.
You
don't.
just sort of
You
carry
don't.
it
It's something
around.
different. It's a different life. It's a different version of you. It's
Yeah.
a different version of life, but you never get over it.
No, you don't. It's, I mean, there's
Nor
that,
should you.
nor should you. Yeah, there's that initial shock. There's the period that is like the craziest times when you just feel like you're completely losing your mind, and then you sort of just carry around this big heavy rock. You just carry around this big heavy rock for the rest of your life, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you're if you're carrying it around, you get used to it. You get stronger for carrying it. So in a way, you don't notice it as much. Is the metaphor that I would reach for.
But yet, the title of the title of the album, "It's Not Going to Be Okay," would tend to suggest that there's no hope there. But yet, I got a real sense of hope. I got a real sense of you have to get through this some way.
Yeah.
You have to keep going because it's the only way.
Yeah.
And I definitely got that from it, Joshua. So,
Good.
I thought that was a lovely, it was a lovely light to come through, even though you were dealing with something extremely dark. And I think an awful lot of people will find catharsis in what you have written and your songs as well. And I also think there's a leaning back into the good old tradition there as well, where you might be talking about the most dark, melancholic themes, but yet the melody's going to tell you something different. You're not afraid to lean into that either, which is a good thing with the experimentation of music and instruments that you bring into your music.
Yeah. I've always found it much easier to like sort of digest like really sad or dark or heavy lyrics if it's in a major key. Like I love all those old country tunes, Hank Williams and George Jones and all those sort of guys. Like they might have been singing about heartbreak and all these sad things, but it was always like the cowboy chords and major key, and I think they're almost sadder because they're in a major key.
Yeah.
You can sort of hum along to it, and it's not like I find that if you're singing a really sad song, but it's also melodically really sad, I find it almost too much. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, ugh.
You almost need to be belting it out in order for it to be cathartic. It's like the power ballads of the 80s. Power ballads of the 80s are some of the best songs ever written because we're all belting them out together. Yeah. We're talking about our heartache. We're talking about losing somebody or whatever it was. But it's that,
fun.
it's the dealing with the big emotions in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to make like bigger, heavier music at some point. There was a couple of tracks, some electric guitar on the album, like the title track, "It's Not Going to Be Okay," and I had so much fun playing that, and we've been having a lot of fun. I'm just about to go on tour now, and we've been practicing it today and with electric guitars and drums, and it's like I'm in a rock band again. This is great. This is class.
Yeah, I was laughing like, there's Nirvana-esque chords in there. You're harking back to those grunge days, and that happy space that you had with your band around in the circle again.
Yeah.
Even though the subject matter of the songs might be big, it might be adult, it might be deep, but there's that kind of that happiness of that type of music coming back in there as well, making its way in.
Yeah.
So when you go on tour, then is it better with a big band, or is it better just which do you prefer, going with the band or just yourself on the guitar?
I prefer playing with a band, and it's normally me and Dan Zara, and we also have drums on a lot of the gigs coming up in the next couple of weeks, and that's fun too. It just depends on the room and the audience and the vibe, and just there's so many variables. But generally, I love playing gigs with other people because you're sharing that experience of not just the gig itself, but before the gig, getting nervous, and then like the sort of buzz after a gig where you're just chock full of adrenaline, and there's nothing. I love that. There's nothing better than that feeling. Like, I've done a lot of drugs in my life. There's no better drug than having nailed a gig and coming off and, you know, just being like with your mates and absolutely buzzing and just full of like, you know, crack and energy.
Yeah, we did it. And you were playing, or I know you've been touring with Ye Vagabonds quite a bit there over the last couple of years.
Yeah, bits and pieces.
What do you get out of that particular relationship? Because it seems like it almost seems like you're another member of the band. Do you know that you all just have this kind of great synchronicity?
Yeah. Oh, it was great to get to play with those guys and open up for them and jump up on stage now and again. Because I'm a fan. I'm just a fan of their music and they're like just the loveliest, most authentic lads, all of them. And a lot of fun, a lot of crack, and very smart and just witty, funny, lovely guys.
God, I'd say the conversations on the tour bus would be something else now with you and the whole gang of them as well. Like we've had them in the Snug here before as well. I just wanted to finally say to you, Joshua, was it true? Was it last night? One of your songs was used in Coronation Street.
It was. I've made it on the Corrie.
So is this it now? You can just retire.
That's it.
Hang it all up. Yeah. Forget about it.
My auntie messaged me and all. She was like, "You're on Coronation Street."
Which song was it?
It was something else. Something else, and it was a good long bit as well, like a good 30 seconds of. So I never thought I'd be on Coronation Street, but there you go.
Joshua Burnside on the cobbles.
Yeah.
I saw something on Instagram today. It was the scene was somebody in a car driving. I was like, oh, come on, it would have been better if it was on in the background in the Rovers, like. But I suppose next time.
I know that would be good.
Marching around the ladies would be a good one for that. To put that on in the Rovers, we could say about that one. But come here, thanks a million for coming in and for chatting on the podcast. It's been great to talk to you.
Yes.
What's next for you now?
Touring, gigging, yeah, just
albums out there,
yeah, just a lot of gigs, really, and then maybe start thinking about making some new weird music. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. Something just completely different, I think.
Do you find at this point in your career a lot of people are telling you what you should and shouldn't do next to follow on to the success of the last recording?
Yeah, I feel like there's probably a little bit of pressure to not do what I intend to do, which is career suicide and make a real like insanely experimental record. But stuff 'em.
I have a funny feeling nobody could tell you what to do at all, Joshua. That ain't going to happen. Yeah. Apart from maybe your 3-year-old son. I think he could be the boss.
Yeah, he's the boss. Emily's the boss too, to be fair.
Yeah.
So they can tell me what to do.
They can tell you what to do.
No one else.
Nobody else. Forget about it. Forget about it. Come here. Great to have you on the podcast. Thanks a million.
Thanks for having me.